My name is Damien Sneed. I'm an arts educator, composer, conductor, and multi-genre artist. I was born in the southern part of the United States of America in a state called Georgia, in a city called Augusta, Georgia. I went to school in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. at a university called Howard University. And after that, I attended other universities and conservatories such as Peabody Conservatory, Manhattan School of Music, New York University, and I'm finishing up my doctorate now at USC. And I'm currently a professor at the Manhattan School of Music. I'm an artist in residence at Michigan State University, Berklee School of Music, and also work at Juilliard in New York City. And I'm here speaking to you all via this wonderful technological innovation called Zoom from St. Louis, Missouri, at the headquarters of Opera Theater of St. Louis, where I'm in preparation for the world premiere of my newest compositional work. It's entitled Treemonisha, and it's an adaptation of Scott Joplin's opera Treemonisha that I've added a lot to, and I'm glad to greet each of you via the World Wide Web through the internet over Zoom.
Thank you so much for being here with us. And first of all, is there anything you don't do? That's such a huge, extensive resume. So I don't know how you guys want to do this. Do you want to just jump right into student questions, or what would you like first?
Doesn't matter. We can do anything.
Okay. And if you feel inclined to play anything, we would be honored. But I've gotten quite a few student questions that have been emailed to me, and the kids wanted to know what sparked your interest at first when it came to music? What drew you in when you were younger?
So the first thing when I was younger, when it came to music, was watching television and watching the TV and doing things like this. And also a TV show called Mr. Rogers, where it was, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?" So he would watch me on television, I guess, to the screen somehow, as I would watch him. And Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood had a man sitting at a piano sometimes, or sitting down at his door, and he would have different people visit from his neighborhood, and then he would take us into a storyland. And that's what caused me to begin to imagine what it would be like to create music for film, music for television, and possibly even an opera. Because on Mr. Rogers, if there was a train coming, you'd hear something like that. And then if someone was happy, they'd go, "I'm happy, I'm sad." So I learned about major and minor and how it works. And then sometimes someone would be hit across the head in the cartoon and they'd go to sleep. So those types of things in film scoring, which we call Mickey Mousing, helped me to receive everything I listened to musically, whether it was popular music, whether it was rock and roll, whether it was gospel, whether it was jazz, whether it was blues, and all the different styles of classical music. And not only would I learn pieces on the piano as I started taking lessons, but I would put them into my cabinet, so to speak, or my musical crayon box. And that's now what I use as a composer professionally, as people hire me to write operas, to write commercial music, to do film scores, television shows, or to create music for ballets, or to write symphonies. I take all these colors and all of these ideas that are in my musical crayon box, and I use them to paint, to write, to describe, and to transport people from all over the world into a newly created space that I help to create along with videographers, librettists, writers, digital technicians, all those types of things. And maybe some of you may be doing the same type of work in the future.
Do we have any musical students here? Put a thumbs up. Just give us a thumbs up. Yep, we got a few. So again, guys, thank you for the questions. I see some of them getting emailed, some of them getting messaged. Keep them coming. One of the kids wants to know, do you prefer any genre over another?
I prefer all genres. I actually get bored doing the same music all the time. I get bored solely doing one type of classical all the time. Like if it's, you know, Bach, Baroque music, or if it's classical, or if it's romantic, or if it's impressionistic, or if it's contemporary, or if it's blues. Or if it's jazz. Or if it's gospel. Or if it is, I don't know, popular music. Let me think. So I have to constantly go between different styles, just like some people wear the same color every day. I wear different colors of clothing every day depending on my mood, how I feel. So I'm constantly making sure that my musical diet, what I put on my plate musically and listen to, is a wide variety of styles. I've learned from spending good time in school, in elementary school, middle school, and high school, paying attention to all coursework, that music history is found in history. When you look at a group of people or their culture, you find a lot can be determined about them based on what they wore, based on the architecture, based on how they communicate with each other through writing or through music. So I wanted to make sure that my music communicates in a way that encompasses everything that's come in the past and also everything that's currently in the present, so that I will never find myself stuck in one particular box or one particular building or house of artistic creative expression.
That's great. That's absolutely wonderful. We have a question from Mev, and Mev is in Italy. Mev, you had an awesome question. Go ahead and unmute and ask Damien.
Hello, hi, nice to meet you. I would like to know, how can someone compose a reinvented adaptation without ruining the original thing?
That's something I'm doing now here at in St. Louis, Opera Theater of St. Louis. I am trying my best to create an adaptation of Scott Joplin's opera, Treemonisha. Scott Joplin is very popular because he composed a piece of music that I'm sure all of you have heard before. The Entertainer and Maple Leaf Rag, and I can go on and on and on. So I've spent years listening to his music, looking at the sheet music to understand how his brain and thinking were towards composition. Then I also have spent a lot of time listening to at least 5 to 6 performances of this opera. And at the same time, I know what I bring to the table as a composer. So my job is difficult, but I find it easy because I feel like I've done the necessary work by making sure my adaptation stays in the style and the language around the time period that he lived in. Somewhat. It's not going to sound exactly like the early 1900s, but it will still have the same type of structure. So anytime even if I'm teaching college, teaching some of my doctoral students in New York City, when their assignment is to create an adaptation, I always make sure that they're very steeped, like, you know, a tea bag. You take the tea bag and you stick it in hot water, but you have to let the tea bag stay in the hot water for the aroma, for the flavor, and for the goodness of the tea to come out. So I make sure that whatever they are adapting musically as composers or arrangers, that they spend enough time understanding the style, the genre, and the rules that were present at the time that the composer created the original work that is to be adapted.
I love Scott Joplin's work. The Entertainer, it's on my Spotify. So I love that song. So I'm very excited to see how it turns out. And that sounds like you're very respectful of the original idea of the original composer. And that's really awesome. We have Tomas has a question. You should be able to unmute and ask, friend.
Yes. How does music affect your emotions?
How does music affect your emotions? That's what he wanted to know.
Music used to affect my emotion, but since I do music all the time, I will allow music to perpetuate or continue the emotion I have. Since I am a composer, and I talked about my musical crayon box, when I hear a piece of music, it immediately goes into a category in my mind, in my heart, in my spirit. So when I'm feeling sad, depending if I want to stay sad for a little while, or if I want to become happy, I will pull something from my iTunes library that continues to perpetuate or continues to enlarge, brighten, make grander the emotion that I'm feeling. It's difficult because I wish I could listen to music and enjoy it, but I know too much. I've spent too many years in school studying music theory, and I spend all of my waking days teaching other students. But I love using music to perpetuate, that's the word I'll use, whatever emotion I have. It's very difficult for me to hear music and be completely moved by it. That's why whenever I attend an opera, whenever I attend a concert or hear a new recording and it moves me emotionally, I'm completely excited and I'm over the moon. And everything does not move me musically because I have so much in my musical library, in my ear, in my head. Also, when I hear music, I immediately connect it to something else. I'm like, oh, this is the same key as this. Oh, this is the fourth step. Ah, this is a minor chord. Oh, this is a Neapolitan sixth chord. Oh, the cello's speaking now. Oh, that's the viola. Oh, they use the French horn. It's very difficult for me to just hear something and my brain not go to thinking and sing notes in the air and sing treble clefs and bass clefs and sing the instrument and sing the person breathe and play the note on the tuba. As a conductor, when I look at a score, when I stand before an orchestra, even when I'm rehearsing, I have to imagine the sound before I get to rehearsal. So that way, if I'm conducting and the French horn or the tuba has a note to play, I have to make sure my preparation gives them enough time to breathe, which is different than my preparation for a string player who can just put their bow right on the string. So for them, I have to be a little ahead of them. And then if there's a choir there as well, I have to make sure I look at the singers and give them enough time to breathe. So every time I hear music, I'm also seeing all these things, conducting, where would I turn? Who am I giving a cue to? All those types, there's a lot going on in my head, as you can see. But for me, whenever I find music or a performance that really moves me, it can be in any style that affects my emotions, I love it. And I sort of ignore everything else going on around me just so I can enjoy that moment, because that's rare for me now.
That's wonderful. One of the kids wanted to know, did the opera theater, did they come to you to adapt Treemonisha, or did you approach them about that?
They actually did something that is never done to me. I mean, maybe it's done to people who are 100 years old or 120 years old. They said, Damien, we'd love to work with you again. Is there any project that you'd like to work on? Any opera? Any idea for an opera? A story? An idea, a theme? And I presented to them the idea of reviving and representing Treemonisha. And I was shocked at their immediate response, letting me know that it's something that they had been thinking about a few years ago. And it's been a phenomenal journey, because here at Opera Theater St. Louis, they actually support the creators for the opera. Sometimes when you are a creator of creative work, you're given a deadline, you're given an agreement or a contract, and you're just out there. But here at Opera Theater St. Louis, they support the creative team. So for me, that's as the composer, and my friend Karen Chilton, who's a librettist, they've given us opportunities to have workshops with singers, workshops with actors where we get to have them read through the story, conversations, educational events, outreach events, places where we can test out the music. And so it makes our work much easier because we feel supported. So this for me is a dream come true. It's an opera that I've always wanted to work on since I was a freshman at Howard University. And when I was assistant conductor and composer in residence at Houston Grand Opera, I actually had a chance to look at the score, the full score of Treevenisha. The first time it was ever performed fully was at Houston Grand Opera back in the 70s, the 1970s, a long time ago. Surely maybe a lot of your grandparents were around back then. And I'm just amazed that I'm actually here at Opera Theater of St. Louis, speaking to people in France, bonjour, and speaking to people in Spain, hola, ¿cómo estás? And also speaking to people from all over the world and all over the United States. I think Italy as well.
Yes, and we thank you. I think we have Germany as well. We
Ah.
thank you for connecting with us. Is it okay if we ask a few more questions before we let you go?
Sure, most definitely.
Okay, one of the kids wanted to know, and I want to know this too. Who was one of your biggest influences on you when you were coming up in the music industry?
Okay, that's hard. So I'll give you a couple because I like different genres. So in classical music, it was Jessie Norman because she sang at my parents' wedding. So I always had to watch her on television. I would be awakened out of sleep to watch her on television. If I was outside playing with my friends, my parents say, come in, you have to watch Jessie Norman. For jazz music, it was Wynton Marsalis, who's like a big brother to me now, a mentor of mine. For popular music, Michael Jackson. I used to try to imitate Michael Jackson all the time. Thriller and Beat It. And I'd say country music, I absolutely loved Dolly Parton because there was a movie with her and she sang the song, I'm working 9 to 5 and I can't. So that's a song, you can look it up on YouTube. I mean, I absolutely love still Dolly Parton. Rock and roll, back then it was Wham. It was the group that George Michael, because you gotta have faith, but it was a group before he was a separate artist called Wham. You can look it up, WHAM. I'm dating myself. I would love to see your adaptation of Faith, but you know, I actually had a little 33 1/3 record player for children back then, and I broke my record of Wham because I played all the time. Then I had a record of Boy George singing, come a chameleon, we rock. Yeah, so, and Madonna. I mean, like, whoa. Papa don't preach. I love Madonna, anything Madonna. So that's another reason why I think my musical styles are so eclectic, because growing up as a child, I was exposed to so much variety of style growing up. But I loved everybody musically. I mean, you name it. I just absolutely loved it. Even a TV show called Sherry and Lamb Chops, and Sherry would sing, and Lamb Chops was like a little sock puppet that would talk back to her. I used to want to be a ventriloquist. What do you say? I don't know. And she would talk like this on the side of her mouth. I'm messing up. And also she was a conductor. Sherry would sometimes conduct an orchestra. And then there'd be another character named Madam. So that's another reason why my mind is very creative. And I always see things like a movie. I'm talking to you now, but every word, I'm hearing the rhythm of the word. If you look at a film called August Rush, you'll see where the young boy would hear everything, people walking as a rhythm. So if I hear this, I'll change that. So make it minor. So it's hard for me. Everything I hear, even raindrops, it becomes music for me. So it's a little, not normal, but it works because that's how I'm able to create and take something that's not there and just place it on paper sheet music so other people can learn it like yourselves. And maybe one day you all will be performing some of my compositions. Who knows?
I have no doubt that we have a lot of talented kids on this with us. I know that. It's just they have to be. We'll go with a few more questions and we'll let you go. We have Emma. Emma, you had an awesome question. Go ahead and unmute and ask Damien.
Okay, I would like to ask you if you prefer to play alone or with the orchestra.
So good question. When I was in college, my major in undergrad was solo piano performance. And after 4 years of being alone and practicing in practice rooms alone, performing alone, I decided to shift my major for my master's degree to music technology, scoring for film and multimedia, so I could learn more about the orchestra, while I was trying to get more into playing for singers and chamber music. So I enjoy playing piano solo, but I really love collaborating with other musicians, whether they're singers, whether they are violinists, cellists, clarinetists, flautists, guitarists, it doesn't matter. I like working with other people and definitely with orchestra. Again, someone asked, what is my favorite style of music? So I enjoy performing with people as much as I enjoy performing alone.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just very eclectic. And, this is a question just for myself. Did it take a really long time to learn how to read sheet music and write your own sheet music?
You see this question, I stopped. I've always had skills, a strong skill set for music theory. I never thought of myself as a composer. I'm still trying to think of myself as a composer. I just think I'm just someone who knows how to notate what I hear. I was talking to my mentor, Wynton Marsalis, about this. He's a very decorated composer. He just won Grammy Artist of the Year, composer for classical music. His composition, his violin concerto that was recorded by Nicola Benedetti in London, with the London Symphony Orchestra. And it's interesting, we were having a conversation and he thinks, as I think, he doesn't really consider himself to be a great composer, even though he is a great composer. But I don't know, I never set out at an early age thinking of myself as a composer. I just learned music. I could play by ear, and strong aural skills in the English A-U-R-A-L. And I played at church and I played jazz music. So the first time that I wrote music down was actually in graduate school. It was this, for a Christmas concert at Baltimore School of the Arts. I was at Peabody Conservatory, just graduated from Howard, and I needed to write something down for the students, so I wrote this. That was Joy to the World. And I have that piece of music still. I kept it for myself. I never recorded that until years and years later in life. And my first formal commission was by an opera singer named Larry Brownlee. He wanted me to do some arrangements of spirituals, and I wrote them down so he could learn them. I sang them after I wrote them down, and I sang every line, every note, every melisma, every run, every breath, every phrase. I sent him the recording from my iPhone, and we went in the studio and we read through each song one time and we recorded it. And I was shocked that he sang everything just like I told him to sing it, in the same keys. And that recording sort of blew up, as people would say. And it exists in libraries at a lot of colleges and universities and conservatories, high schools. The recording was sold at the Metropolitan Opera Bookstore. I decided to create a record label. I decided to create a publishing company. I started selling the music, and even today I sell so much sheet music now just because of that one experience. It gave me an opportunity to continue to dream and to morph and to think maybe I'm not just a pianist. Maybe I can actually be a composer. And I'm still trying to learn. I still take lessons. But composing is not something I ever thought of originally. But it's a skill set that I have. So now, when I teach people in elementary school, like you all, in middle school, I do not put them in a box, as I felt like my education did to me by telling me you are a pianist, this is your major. But actually the skills needed to compose, I was doing that stuff in middle school and high school with music theory classes, sight singing classes. When I went to college and graduate school, I never took any sight singing classes or ear training classes. I placed out of all of them at Howard University, at Peabody Conservatory, at Manhattan School of Music, at NYU. Every school I went to, I never had to take any sight singing and ear training classes because I learned how to do that naturally as a child. And it's just a skill that I had. It's a very important skill for you for a person as a composer. So for me, this composition track is very new to me. And I don't feel that comfortable in it, which is a good thing, which means it keeps me on my P's and Q's. So I'm always studying, I'm always reading, I'm always listening to other composers that are my age and composers that are from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, great composers as people have labeled them great in textbooks and on websites. But yeah, I'm always learning. And I think that's one thing that I want you to get from this interactive conversation. You never stop learning.
That's a great quote.
Arrive. Always be open to learn from other people, other cultures, even learning from others' mistakes and your own mistakes, because it will only make you a better person.
That's a wonderful, wonderful quote. Sarah, you have one of our final questions. Go ahead and unmute to ask for Damien.
I wanted to ask you, how much time does it take to you to write a track?
To write a what?
A track, like a song.
It depends. Some things I work on them for. There's one song I still haven't finished. I've been working on it since my junior year in college, and I really can't finish it. Other things, I hear the entire thing in one sitting, and I can just write it like immediately. It's not even written. I'm not writing it, so to speak. It's just I hear it, and there it is. So it just depends. I'm a composer that has to be inspired, but I can create things like it's an assignment. It's not fun, you know. Oh, do this, do that. People love it. They say, oh, it's so brilliant. And to me, in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is just something I actually just wrote. But for me, the pieces that are compositions that mean the most to me are the ones that just come out of nowhere. And I hear the entire thing, even if it's like 20 or 30 minutes. So I don't have it with me now, but I keep a device, a tablet, using my phone. And so I can be on a plane, I can be driving, I could be in the shower, I can be asleep, I can be traveling. And I hear a melody or I hear a line and I just record it. Sometimes I can't be that loud, you know, because people look like, what's wrong with him? But I record all these melodies or motifs and our themes. And then when I go to write a large work, I have a lot to pull from because I have all of these motifs and themes, sometimes 30 and 40, just sitting in my iPhone, and I can just pull from them and weave them together or develop the theme that's already there. So yeah, for me, I'm constantly getting little drops of musical information every day, always. And so I try to capture it as much as possible. So having a device that I can keep with me and record, and it's locked somewhere into a cloud, an iCloud or some type of digital bank of knowledge, so to speak, has been tremendous for me.
That's awesome. So one of the final student questions they messaged us to me, they want to know, is it hard to sing and play piano at the same time?
It's very difficult. It's something that I do naturally because I had to do it at my church. Sometimes I'd have to just play and sing something. It's even harder to do when I've created something that I'm writing because it used a different part of my brain. I can play by ear and sing, no problem. And a lot of people tell me that when I play and sing, it sounds like two different people, which is what I've aimed for. Because I know people who play and sing, and you can tell they're changing each note with each phrase or with each measure or with each word. I always wanted to develop my playing skills to be an accompanist, to accompany myself singing. So if someone's eyes were closed, they would say it has to be two different people playing. and dexterity and individuality between my right hand and left hand. However, when I read music that's been written down, classical music, and try to sing it, it's more difficult because for some reason, I've been so trained and indoctrinated to read the music as I'm reading it, and then to try to read the other line. So it's interesting because then I'm fighting the chance or possibility of faltering and stopping because I'm listening like, oh, wow, that line goes like this. I'm listening to the piano because it's hard for me to read and be relaxed. I can look relaxed, but I'm actually reading every line, following every lifting of the pedal, following the markings for expression, thinking about phrasing, thinking about technique, all that stuff comes into play. I may look like it's simple, but it's very, very, very complex.
And if you guys haven't checked it out, check him out on YouTube. He has some amazing performances where he's singing and playing. Damien, we can't thank you enough for taking the time. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, everybody over there in St. Louis. We appreciate you all. Before we let you go, is there anything that you can share with the students as far as somebody who's so successful in his field? What kind of advice would you have for these kids as they go off in the world and figure out what they want to do?
I'll give you the same advice that my mentor, Wynton Marsalis, gave me, and I'll add to it. This is what Wynton told me. He said, it's not about winning awards. It's not about being the greatest in music. He said, but it's about learning about other people and their cultures. He said, the gift, your talent will bring you in front of a lot of great people, but what will connect you with them the most is having an understanding about their culture, their language, their experience, their facet of living, their part of the world. So he told me to spend as much time as I can reading about history, reading about other people's cultures, and being aware of as many things as possible. But for me, I'll say that's very important, but it's also very important to do two things. Find a way to be happy in life. Whatever that is that makes you happy, make sure you always take time for yourself. And number two, rest, sleep, sit and do nothing. It's okay to just be still, be quiet, and take time for yourself resting.
Is there any way that you could play us out with something, and then I'll end the meeting for all? Is that okay with you?
Sure, sure.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And students, go ahead and thank Damien and Morgan and everyone in St. Louis. And I'll end the meeting for all. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.